Today on the Daily Dollar, Adobe has done something truly unimaginable, completely unpredictable. They disappointed everyone. As I'm sure many of you now know, Adobe is buying Figma. Yeah, Figma, the company that, unless you're a developer, you've never heard of. And in this process, they manage to not only disappoint the employees of Figma, the users of Figma's products, but even their own shareholders. Now, if that's not an accomplishment, I don't know what is. Figma's users started raising concerns shortly after the announcement. Shareholders were shocked by the size of the deal for what is essentially a small cap business. So let's look into why Adobe made this choice, and what this will mean for everyone involved, and what the future may hold for a combined Adobe Figma company. Support the content we make with a like, subscribe, and keep watching the Daily Dollar. So why would Adobe spend $20 billion on a company most people have never heard of? Well, the short answer is because most people who do know what it is love the product. Figma, for everyone who doesn't work in tech, is an extremely useful tool for web designers and developers. It connects everyone in the design process, therefore allowing teams to work more seamlessly on projects. Figma allows for rapid prototyping, iteration, and the testing of systems, which is everything Adobe XD wanted to be, but so much better. This is the underlying reason for the entire transaction. Adobe, while dominating the creative content space, was hardly a player in the professional developer industry. Despite Figma being such a small company, it generates $400 million, compared to that of the $15 million of Adobe XD. While both numbers combined are still a rounding error on Adobe's income statement, it was clear to executives that they had already lost. This motivated them to pay that huge premium for Figma. An essential tool for web developers is what Adobe wanted, and now they may have it. If it goes through, that is. Figma users were quick and loud to voice their opinion on the purchase. Let's just say they don't want this deal to go through. And they have a point, as Adobe has a less than stellar reputation, being seen as a greedy, bloated tyrant of the creative content industry, the necessary evil. After all, Adobe's Creative Cloud Suite has a mixed reputation with its users. The switch from a one-time purchase to a never-ending premium subscription has left them feeling kind of about the company, even though shareholders have absolutely loved it. While a fantastic business move for shareholders, the user experience was damaged in the process. Figma users are now concerned that something similar will eventually happen to them, and it will, or at least it most likely will. This is a recurring problem with large companies buying emerging startups. These deals nearly always go through because the startups don't have the size to warrant monopoly concerns, especially when entering an industry that the large cap company currently does not have a significant stake in. Adobe XD is likely not large enough to warrant the deal being struck down by regulators, but it is still possible. Typically, when these acquisitions happen, it results in the startup becoming distracted or overwhelmed by the company that it is now a part of. It gets absorbed and loses its identity in the process. For example, Figma is currently devoting 100% of its resources and manpower into serving and nurturing their community and user base. If it is acquired, choices the company makes, funding, and resources may be reallocated or diverted based on the parent company's demands. Another issue for the user base is that eventually Adobe will want its money back, and it will be coming from their pockets. However, not everything is all doom and gloom. Adobe is offering huge incentives for the top talent at Figma to stay on and keep the momentum going. This should keep Figma on the right course for a time. Along with the added cash flows from Adobe backing it, it may allow them to expand their operations faster than they would have been able to otherwise. Despite all these concerns, the users are not the only ones upset about this deal. Shareholders, our lovely financial overlords, were quick to punish Adobe with a 20% drop in share price, which is highly unusual as Wall Street loves their mergers and acquisitions. This has more to do with the greed of shareholders than the credibility of the purchase, but Wall Street saw a 400 times premium and thought it was ridiculous. To further insult their financial genius, Adobe is depreciating shareholders for half of the $20 billion deal. Compared to Adobe's $130 billion market valuation, which keep in mind is after a steep market decline, so the impact won't even be that significant. That being said, any amount of shareholder dilution results in Wall Street kicking and screaming. How dare you mess up their little delicate forecasts? I'm personally surprised by the reaction from Wall Street. Perhaps it only overreacted because of 2022 being unfavorable, and the bears are in power right now. I think a 20% drop was a little short-sighted. While $20 billion is a lot of money for this relatively small company, it is the future potential they are buying. And Figma has potential. If Adobe allows the Figma workforce to focus on growth, market share, and user experience, they are likely to deliver. While investors have some regulatory concerns as well, it doesn't seem to be the primary reason for their sell-off. Despite the exponential growth of Figma, shareholders don't typically like paying 400 times earnings for a company. Then again, shareholders are famous for enjoying short-term gains over long-term potential. Alongside with how obscure Figma is, it's not surprising it took them off guard, especially with Adobe XD being such an overlooked aspect of the Creative Cloud suite. The web design space is highly fragmented, but if it does consolidate, it has the potential to be comparable in size and revenue to the creative design industry. This leads us to what an Adobe Figma future might look like. Figma is likely the starting point for Adobe's web design suite. They don't want to rely on a single part of the design industry. It's likely they want a cloud-based web design ecosystem, primarily to diversify and complement their Creative Cloud suite. Figma has been experiencing exponential growth as they double their revenue year over year, and this is unlikely to change with the new parent company. It is unlikely to be incorporated into the Creative Cloud suite simply because of the different user bases, although bundled discounts may be a thing. As long as Adobe does actually keep the top talent on board, then Figma's products and experience should continue to improve and expand. Heavier monetization of Figma's products is unlikely to happen until user growth begins to taper off. There is the possibility this could result in some innovation at Adobe. The reason for this is the design philosophies of the two companies. Figma focuses on collaboration, while Adobe has focused on the independent designer. Figma also has a better balance between capability and usability. Adobe needs to learn from Figma how to incorporate true collaborative capabilities with an increased focus on usability. The Creative Suite could literally take years to master, and the team functions are lacking to say the least. Adobe, adopt Figma's design culture. Don't force yours onto them. Now, how far into the developer world Adobe is planning on getting is still unknown. So where does this all leave us? Overall, Figma will likely earn Adobe that $20 billion back in the long term, and will allow them to enter a new industry. Like, for real this time. Adobe XD was clearly not going anywhere fast. This is all still dependent on regulators approving the deal. Even with the current US government taking a stronger position against large mergers, which in nominal terms this is, Figma and Adobe XD hold a relatively small part of the larger web design industry, and it is likely to swing in Adobe's favor, but I'm no lawyer. And that is a big if, because while most of these deals go through, sometimes they do run into problems, or at least delays. The real question is if Adobe Figma will be the name, or are they going to keep them independent, or will Adobe just absorb them? I hope they don't reduce it to FI and put it in a randomly colored cube. Whether you're designing a website, merchandise, or videos, you may be using Adobe for it all, or at least that's their dream. The only thing they need to buy is the Unity engine, and then boom, game design too. They don't have Epic level money, so that's out of the equation. Adobe, reach out anytime for consulting services. And to all of you, support our content by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and keep watching The Daily Dollar.